You expect pain when you're lying in a hospital bed, bruises, broken bones, maybe the dull ache of time itself, but I'll tell you this, friends, no injury has ever cut me as deep as the words that came out of my own son's mouth that day. His voice was steady, cold, almost businesslike when he said, "Dad, maybe it's time you hand everything over to me, you don't need it anymore." The force stung in my arm, but those words, they tore through me. My name's Frank Miller, I'm 68 years old, and I spent over 40 years behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler, hauling America's goods from coast to coast. I've seen every sunrise on every interstate, and I've eaten more gas station coffee and truck stop pie than I care to admit. These days, my mornings are quieter. I sit on my porch in Chillicothe, Ohio, coffee in hand, listening to an old George Jones record spin low on the stereo. On my fridge are faded Polaroids of my boy, Michael, his gap-toothed grin from Little League, his high school graduation cap crooked on his head. Those photos are reminders of why I sacrificed so much, why I worked through winters that froze the steel of my rig and summers that burned my skin raw. I thought those sacrifices built me a legacy. I thought my son would carry it with pride. But what I didn't know is how fragile loyalty could be, and how cruel betrayal feels when it comes from your own blood. Michael is 35 now, he wears tailored suits, drives a shiny black Tesla, and talks fast about startups and investments I can't quite keep up with. I raised him alone after his mother passed, cooked, cleaned, worked double runs to keep food on the table and pay for his college tuition. I remember sleeping in my truck cab outside a delivery yard in Chicago just so I could wire him money for his textbooks. And yet, sitting at my kitchen table just months before my accident, he leaned back in his chair and said, "Dad, you don't need this house, you're old, you should downsize, let me handle the money, I could put it into my company, turn it into something real." I stared at him, hands calloused from decades on the wheel, and thought about every mile I drove for him, every mile that cost me my back, my knees, my health. "Son," I said quietly, "this house is all I've got, it's where your mother and I raised you." But he waved his hand like I was some child. "Dad, times have changed, you don't understand how the world works anymore." Those words stung worse than any ache in my joints, being dismissed, being treated like I was obsolete. That's when I realized, I wasn't just facing greed, I was facing disrespect. And let me tell you, when a man who's driven America's highways for 40 years is pushed aside, he doesn't honk his horn right away, he waits, he plans, he learns the road ahead. The fall was stupid, really. I slipped on the back steps, fractured my hip. Next thing I knew, I was staring at the bright lights of the hospital ceiling, tubes in my arms, machines beeping steady. That's when Michael came in, no flowers, no "how are you holding up, Dad?" Instead, he set down a folder. "While you're here, you should think about signing the house over, you can't keep up with it, I've already spoken to the bank." I looked at him, my own flesh and blood, and asked, "Is that all you came here for?" His voice was sharp, cold. "Dad, you've lived your life, let me handle what's left." I felt something inside me crumble. The boy I sacrificed everything for had turned me into a burden, a loose end to tie up, and later I learned, while I lay in that hospital bed, he drained nearly half my retirement savings, shifting it into accounts under his name. My heart didn't just ache, it broke. But age teaches you something, patience. I didn't lash out, didn't scream. Instead, I began to map my road to justice. First, I called an old friend, Earl Thompson, a retired lawyer I once helped when his rig broke down outside Topeka. Earl owed me, and Earl knew the law. Second, I dug through every record I had, bank statements, letters, even recordings of Michael pressuring me. Third, I quietly rewrote my will. I made it ironclad, no loopholes, no easy grab for Michael. And then, I waited. I let him think he'd won, because arrogance, it always trips on its own shoelaces. Michael grew bolder by the day. He'd call me, voice full of impatience, "Dad, did you get those papers signed yet? You don't want to drag this out." He even sent texts that twisted the knife deeper. "You should be in assisted living. I'll handle your money better than you ever could." Neighbors started whispering how Michael strutted around town, bragging about new business ventures, hinting at money that wasn't his. But I stayed quiet. I kept sipping my morning coffee, cane by my side, watching the leaves turn golden, because I knew the road he was barreling down had a dead end, and I had the map. The reckoning came on a Sunday morning inside the church hall, during a fundraiser dinner. Half the town was there, folks who'd known me since I first parked my rig at Miller's Diner. Michael showed up late, swagger in his step. He started talking big about his company, flashing his watch, dropping hints about his inheritance. That's when I stood up, cane tapping the wooden floor, and cleared my throat. "Folks," I said, "I've got something to share." I pulled out a folder, bank statements, legal documents, and a recording I'd saved of Michael's cold words in that hospital room. Earl had made sure it was all legal, airtight. The crowd grew silent as Michael's voice played out loud. "Dad, you've lived your life, let me handle what's left." Gasps, whispers, neighbors turning to stare. Michael's smug smile cracked like thin glass. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "I may be old, but I am not blind, and I will not be erased." Applause erupted. Some folks shook my hand, others muttered in disgust at Michael. His arrogance crumbled under the weight of truth. He stormed out, humiliated, the town's respect slipping away with every step. In the weeks that followed, Michael found doors closing, investors backed out, friends stopped answering his calls. His so-called business dream fell apart, leaving him with nothing but his pride, and even that was battered. As for me, I found peace again on my porch, coffee steaming, sunset spilling across the Ohio sky. I thought about the long roads I'd driven, the storms I'd endured. Betrayal had hurt me deeper than any broken bone, but it had also taught me something. Dignity isn't given, it's defended. And though my body is older, my spirit is steady. To anyone watching, remember this: age doesn't erase wisdom. Betrayal may knock you down, but it also shows you the strength you still carry inside. If you've ever faced betrayal and stood tall again, share your story in the comments. And if you want to hear more tales like mine, stories of heartbreak, justice, and resilience, don't forget to subscribe. Because sometimes the hardest roads lead us right back to dignity.